Hey headphone people, welcome back to the channel. MrAyrit here. Have a review today that's been a long time coming. Kind of a really long time coming because I actually owned this headphone like probably almost 2 years ago and sold it, and now I have it again. So it's the Focal Elegia, and you know, if you've been watching this headphone at all, if you haven't tried it yet, you probably see that opinions can kind of be all over the board with this thing, and there's good reason for that. So let's take a look at it, let's see what you get, and ultimately of course we'll talk about the sound and maybe why it can be kind of like a two-faced headphone here and what you could do about it to maybe remedy that. So what do you get? Well, it comes in Focal's, you know, typical packaging. I'm not going to do the whole unboxing and stuff. I've got several other Focal reviews. If you want to look at those, you can go back and look at those, right? They all come with about the same unboxing experience, which is really nice, okay? It comes in a really nice box. It's really well presented, all that stuff. This is the carrying case, which comes with some of the Focals, but not all of them. It is a really nice case. So getting the Elegia, like, you get the case with it, and that's kind of a bonus because the Elegia really now is like an under $400 headphone. You know, original price was like $800, $900, something like that. Then Adorama would do sales where they would go on sale for around $400 or $500 periodically, and now it seems to be pretty much perpetually on sale all the time for about $400, $380, which means you can buy them open box for less than that, or on the used market now you can even buy them for less than $300, like my example here, which I bought for I think $275. Okay, so case, super nice, very good, very functional. You can see it's got a little cable in there, holder for the 1/4-inch adapter. Okay, the cable on this guy is not bad at all compared to some of the other Focal cables. Okay, it's not super long, it's only about 4 feet. You can see it's got the 3.5 terminations, and then the single-ended 3.5 with the screw-on adapter goes there. So cable's fine. I didn't really use it, I just used a heart system with it. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy Focal headphones, is because they just have a 3.5mm connector, which means super easy to get whatever cable you want for it, which is a big perk in my opinion. Okay, so let's set the case aside for now. It's very nice. Again, big perk to get it. You might even want to buy an Elegia just to get this case if you want a case and like you have an Alex or something like that that didn't come with a case, and then you could sell your Elegia without the case and probably more or less make your money back if you got a decent deal on your Elegia. So anywho, let's look at the headphones here. First, there's a couple of things to note, and these are a couple of things that are pretty important when it comes to this headphone. Number one, mine has a headphone or a headband cover on it. This came with mine because these things are notorious for staining, and you can see there is a light stain on this. They use this light gray material on here, which is just a bad idea because a lot of people, apparently people who like headphones, shave their head a lot. Like, it seems like it. You know, my good buddy Signcraft, like, he has a shaved head. This is from another person that I interact with quite a bit on the forums and things like that. He has a shaved head, so he said this is like head oils is what causes these stains, and it seems like it's kind of a perpetual thing with the Elegia. So if you shave your head, at least, now when I owned these before, I didn't have any issue with the staining. I have a somewhat reasonable head of hair, although you can see it's thinning out, but I didn't have a problem with staining, so I don't know if it's just like a shaved head thing or a bald head thing or whatnot, but you may want to just go ahead and invest in a little cover here. I'll link to one that's at least similar to this, if not the same thing. Like I said, it came with mine, so I don't know exactly which one it is, but it works fine. It feels good. It's comfy. It's a little bit hard to get on with the zipper and stuff, but once you do, it's totally fine. The other thing to really note about mine is that I've got Dekoni Sheepskin pads on it. These are the solid ones. And just long story short with these, and we'll touch on this more a lot when it comes to sound, is I pretty much wouldn't recommend these headphones without these pads on them. For me, they correct a lot of the sound mistakes while still being super comfortable. So we'll talk more about that here shortly. These are the stock pads. They are, you know, kind of that Focal cloth material, which is kind of like a micro suede, and then you can see they've got kind of that same gray on the inside. I don't think it's that big of a deal here. I don't know that it really gets stained a whole lot while it's like, you know, inside, while your ears are inside there. But again, the sound, it's not terrible with these, but inconsistent is really more of the word, which again, we'll talk about that more after we look at more of the build of the Elegia here, which will be pretty quick because these are just a Focal headphone, right? It's pretty well documented now that these Focals are all built just about the same. You know, it's all, I think, a really good build. It's metal construction. You know, the cups are plastic, but they're solid. They have kind of a unique texture on it. These have the silver black colorway, obviously, which is good. I mean, I'd probably just prefer an all black myself. And I do think the newer gen Focal stuff looks a little bit nicer. I haven't tried the Radiance or the Stellia yet. Hopefully I'll get a chance to do that at some point, but those are phenomenal looking headphones in my opinion. I bet they look even better in person. These look fine. They look good. They look like a high quality headphone. They feel like a high quality headphone. I've never had any issue with Focal builds. I know some people have issues where they break the headbands, and some people have issues with drivers and things like that. I've owned a handful of Focals and I've never had an issue with that. So I don't know exactly what's going on there. I just can only comment that, like, I haven't had any problems with them. So comfort-wise, again, it's a typical Focal, which they fit my head really well. I have a fairly small head. I don't have any issues with fit. It's got the springy cups. I get good seals with these. I've never had an issue with seals with the Elegia. A lot of people say that, like, if you wear glasses, it's difficult to get a good seal and that can ruin the sound. I've never really experienced that myself. And definitely with these Dekoni Sheepskin pads, they seal super, super well and isolate really well too. So let's jump into sound. And specifically, I mean, I'll touch base on the sound with the stock pads, but I really want to focus on with the sheepskin pads. I know some people don't like it when I do that, but like I want to review the headphone how I like it. And you know, if you get it, like, you can try to get these pads too, and then hopefully we'll, you know, have similar impressions. But it's just the way I do things, right? I don't want to spend a lot of time listening to headphones I don't like. So if I get a headphone I don't like, I tweak it a little bit to where I like it. That's how I'm going to review it. So sorry if that doesn't jive with you, but that's just the way I do things. So anyway, with the stock pads, I found the sound of these to sometimes be great and to sometimes be terrible. And I think it comes down to it's a very, very, any way you slice it, this is a very capable headphone, technically, right? Like detail, resolution, separation, all that stuff, texture, everything with this headphone, like the technical ability is there, but the tuning doesn't fit well all the time with it's definitely not a do-it-all every genre type of a headphone, especially with the stock pads on it, right? It's pretty anemic with the stock pads on it. That's not to say like there isn't bass and the bass isn't like high quality, but just sometimes the bass gets a little lost in the shuffle and gets pushed to the back behind, you know, the middle frequencies specifically. I think this is mainly a mid-focused headphone, especially when you have the stock pads on it, and that can just leave certain tracks across all genres really, but it can just leave certain tracks just feeling a little hollow, a little, like I said, just a little thin, a little anemic. I don't know how, whatever word you want to associate with, just kind of not feeling full and rich and engaging, right? You put the Dekoni Sheepskins on it, and I think it largely takes those inconsistencies between track to track, because like I said, sometimes with these stock pads I really enjoyed this headphone. It was too inconsistent to continually use for me. After I put the sheepskin pads on it, I really feel like it pretty much rounds this headphone out to be quite decent in most categories, and it certainly improves the consistency as far as like just sounding balanced and full across the board. So the main thing you're going to notice when you put these pads on is that the bass is going to fill out. Probably maybe, at least to my taste, maybe even like to a little bit too much, but I would much rather take just like a slightly too much bass than too little bass or inconsistent bass. So once these are on, then the bass fills in, they become much fuller, much richer, but they still maintain a lot of that great technical ability. I would say like the texture and detail in the bass does go down a bit when you put these sheepskin pads on, but overall, to me, it's a better, more balanced presentation. It brings those lower frequencies more in line with the middle frequencies to where it doesn't become super imbalanced, and it doesn't feel too mid-focus like it did with the stock pads for me. And I think it really makes it just a nice, well-rounded headphone, right? I feel like it makes it a warm tilting headphone. Although I do really think this thing excels at upper frequencies. They're not at the forefront of the experience, but the resolution up there in the upper end is really good. Especially for the money, I'd say, like really good. And vocal performances, once you kind of fill out the bottom end of that with these Dekoni Sheepskin pads, I think vocal performances come off really great. And you know, the soundstage imaging, all that, like, it's not a huge soundstage by any means. I mean, I'd say it's kind of typical Focal soundstage. That's definitely not the like impressive thing that they do. For me, it's really just like a good, solid, all-around headphone once you put these sheepskin pads on it. And I was enjoying it with just about everything I used it with. It's also an extremely easy to drive headphone, so you could probably drive it off just like a phone or something. I mean, I used it with my X-Can quite a bit, and that's a nice portable solution. But it also likes tubes. I enjoy it with my the Felix Audio Echo that I have currently. I mean, I prefer it without a super sharp solid state amp. I think having a well-rounded, just kind of balanced, maybe even like a slightly warm tilting amp does these good, because they can still come off a little sharp every now and then. They definitely have a little bit more bite to them than things like the Argons or the Atticus that I have right now. These guys have like a little bit more bite. And honestly, I would say they maybe are even, you know, a little more technically capable than those two headphones. So for me, they sit on a nice, with the sheepskin pads, they sit at a nice spot where they're exciting, they've got a little bit of bite, they've got enough bass, they've got a rich vocal experience, they've got a lot of nice treble detail. So I think these have become, honestly, I think these would be one of the first closebacks I would try. If you're looking to go up a tier in closed back headphones, like, so say you're coming from something like a, you know, DT770 or the Rode NTH100s or the Sivga 021 or any of that stuff, right? I just did a review on the Rode NTH100s or whatever those things are called, right? And a lot of people are really digging those headphones, and they're not bad, but when I compared them with these, and I mentioned this in that video, I found that these guys were just better all around. Like, just definitely much more resolution here, and just better separation, and just more life to them. So I really think that these, if you can pick up a used set, which is probably how I would recommend you shop for them, just because there's a lot of used sets on the market now. And if you can buy it for $300 or less, spend, you know, $50 and get yourself some sheepskin, some Dekoni Sheepskin pads, and give that setup a try. One, you'll probably be able to get your money back out if you don't like it for whatever reason. But two, you're getting a definite taste of what high-end closed-back audio sounds like. I think these things trade blows really well with things like the Atticus or the Argons. And I just did a review also of the Meze Lyrics, and while these aren't as technically as impressive as them, right, they still give you a taste of like, what would it be like if I got even more resolution and even more imaging separation. Then you could kind of think, like, from here, that's what the Meze is like. So it's going to be a good introductory into some nice high quality closed back sound. I'm not a big EQ person. Probably if you're an EQ person, you could even tweak this even more, right? And get it to be right along with your preferences. So for me, I think they're definitely worth a look. I think they're a great value on the used market. I just wouldn't use them without those sheepskin pads. That's the only thing I would say. I think Focal, like almost all their stuff is really good. I think sometimes you just have to tune it a little bit with like pads or EQ or things like that. To me, they almost don't ever come stock like exactly how I want them, but with some pad swapping and things like that, I can usually get them to be really, really good personally. So that's my take on the Elegias. I still think they're a great headphone. I know a lot of people don't like them and really don't like them, but I think, again, for the money, and if you're willing to play around a little bit with pads and things like that, I think they're a great set. And I would recommend them, especially if you can pick up a good deal on the used market. So I think that'll do it for this video. I do have more closebacks, like I'm mentioning, the Argons, the XOO, and the Atticus will be coming here before too long, so stick around for those. Oh, you know what? I would say too, like, definitely put your opinions with the Elegia down. Have you tried them? What did you think of them? Did you pad swap? Did you figure out something that worked for you? Again, just the more opinions we can have and share, the better off we all are in this community. So I always appreciate when people add their input. So don't forget to do that down below as well. Thank you so much for being with me, and I hope to see you in the next one.